Hey y'all, welcome back to Adaptivities. It's Madeline Monday, and today my mentor and friend, Mark Bradley, will be doing the interviewing in place of Madeline and I for the special interview for Autism Awareness Month.
Hey, hello.
I wanted to let you know that this video will be longer than usual, so please watch when you have 15 to 30 minutes available. Enjoy!
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Bradley and I'm with Awaken with Mark.com and also partnering today with Kiana Walcott in terms of Adaptivities. Okay, so actually Adaptivities is our sponsor. How about if I express it that way? And we are here with the Cornfields, Tom and Amanda. Welcome, glad to have you all here. One of the things that we tend to talk about is people who have dreams, who have a personal desire to move forward in anything. And sometimes life throws us a curveball or whatever, but that's the way life is. So we move forward in how we deal with it. So they're going to talk about their life and their journey and so forth. So we're looking forward to presenting that to you. And it's in the context of this being Autism Awareness Month. So just want to make sure that you're aware of that. So welcome, Tom and Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So tell me a little bit about your family, your journey, and just describe it for us.
Well, we have two children, both of whom have been diagnosed with autism. We have an older son, Sam Henry, who's 15, who is probably on the lower functioning end of the autism spectrum, and then we have a daughter named Madeline, who is considered to have Asperger's syndrome, which is on the much higher functioning end of the autism spectrum.
Oh, okay. When you talk about the spectrum, could you tell me just a little bit more about that?
Sure. Autism, ASD, autism spectrum disorder is exactly that. It's a spectrum. It ranges from children who are nonverbal, can't toilet themselves, can't function without a severe level of support, right up to children who blend in very naturally with society and just have a few issues with social and emotional regulation.
Oh, okay. What is a typical day like for you with two children on the spectrum?
There is no.
Oh, okay, that's the joke.
But
Okay,
that's
yeah.
I mean, generally speaking, I would say in the morning there's a lot of prompting and a lot of pushing them to get up and
a lot of stress
do
in
the
the
different
morning.
activities and getting everything up and running with the kids. So getting him, he has to he has obsessive compulsive disorder. It's sort of part of his autism.
Okay.
So he's very much, in the morning, he has to go in, take a shower every morning, which is good.
Which is
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing.
But do it a certain way.
But do it a certain way,
Okay.
and so that's part of it. And then getting Madeline up and getting her dressed. And I mean,
It's probably really similar to what a lot of families go through in the morning, but maybe magnify it by 5,000.
Wow.
with the prompting.
Okay.
But I mean, they
Prompting
dress
and the stress.
themselves. I don't mean we physically don't have to dress them. I just want to make sure that's clear. But we kind of have to say, okay, now it's time to get dressed, and
We use a lot of
it's time to do
schedules,
this,
we use a
and-
lot of
right.
verbal prompts.
So you have things ordered. That's very critical.
And
Yeah.
then he comes downstairs and we do his, he takes his medicine.
Everything is very choreographed
Okay.
to
Right.
like the very nth degree with our kids all the time.
How do
Amanda
you come
drinks
to
her
that?
coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
we
right?
do.
That's important.
That's very important.
It's
Okay.
important that to make Amanda,
That's part of
Amanda's
it.
Coffee is a key part of the morning routine.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he goes to he gets on the school bus at 8:10 or so, and Amanda drives Madeline to school. She's in private school right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I
okay.
interrupted you. You were going to ask a question.
I was just asking, what about, I guess, support or how you order things and make them happen? How do you arrive at that?
We've had a lot of help along the way. Most notably, we've been working with a behaviorist, Dr. Robin Allen, for the past 11 or 12 years.
Okay.
And I don't know how we would raise our kids without her. We get support there. People like Kiana, who runs Adaptivities, has been an integral part of our team. Dr. Dan Shapiro, and it's a ton of trial and error, and it's continuous trial and error as our kids get older and their needs change. So this very choreographed dance will work for X amount of time until it doesn't. And then you have to start all over again.
When you say until it doesn't, I don't know what you mean. I know what you mean by it doesn't happen anymore, but.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not happening for a good reason. Like Sam Henry will be able to take a shower completely on his own, so we'll be able to focus more of our attention on Madeline, so we'll be able to change it that way. And sometimes it changes for really not so great reasons, like Sam Henry all of a sudden doesn't want to eat pancakes for breakfast anymore, so we have to figure out something else, and it's continually in motion. So it works until it doesn't.
Oh, okay. When you were mentioning some, I think you did, support groups, are there other, like, how can I put it, where a group of parents get together and encourage one another?
That's actually interesting. Tom and I think, and if you don't mind, I'll speak for you, but we've been in and out of parental support groups over the years, and, it's a spectrum for a reason. All of our kids are so different. They say if you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism, and that's so true. We both have a very core group of friends. Some have children with disabilities, some don't. And we found that they are much more of a support system for us than an organized group. My friends, most of them don't have children with disabilities, but have known my kids since they were babies. And we've met people through the years who have had kids with disabilities, and we get support from them in different ways. I think we find that having people that know us and know our kids is much more beneficial than joining a support group.
My sense is that that's a real, when I think about the different organizations that exist out there, whether it's Autism Speaks or Cure Autism Now, are sort of two that come to mind. I don't think that they do a particularly good job of providing, sort of the emotional support for parents that I think would be helpful. So whether or not it's, helping set up these kinds of groups for, in different communities, it seems like one of those groups, Cure Autism Now, is all about, we have to cure it, which, leads, I think, to a lot of crazy treatments that are, I think, somewhat dangerous, quite frankly. And Autism Speaks, I think, is then, is also sort of about research and, but I don't think there's a lot of sort of helping people cope day to day, at least not from some of these established organizations that are out there that are, about sort of, awareness of autism. It's like, okay, now we're aware of it. Now we know how to, we know a lot more about it certainly than we did before. Okay. But for those of us, who have children with autism, there isn't really been, I think, a real great emphasis on, how can we really help parents that are coping with this. And then I think to Amanda's point, it's if you have these kinds of sessions, they have to be very well moderated, because otherwise they can sort of, quickly devolve into just, people complaining about this therapy or that therapy or this, or, this teacher or that teacher or something like that.
And autism, because it has such a wide range of people within the spectrum, that also lends itself to a wide range of opinions about what causes it. Do we want to cure it? Do we want to just accept it? There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and I don't think there's enough credit given. I don't remember what the study was, but there was a study several years ago that parents of children on the autism spectrum have a level of PTSD that is equal to someone that has been in active combat for 3 consecutive years.
Really?
And I don't think there's enough. I don't think that, and I can attest that's probably true.
Okay.
And I don't think there's enough. I don't think that there's enough helping of the family as a whole.
Okay. Teach us, families, as to things we could do. If there's 3 or 4 items that might come to mind, I didn't realize it was like PTSD. And are there?
Well, I think it's just kind of you know, you have to kind of be on your guard quite a bit in a way that
You're always
that
kind of
is-
at DEF CON.
that is
Okay.
that is not, I think, for, you know, a typical parent where, you know, obviously there are issues that they deal with their children. I don't mean to say that they don't, but you don't have to sort of be, okay, you know, is he going to run outside? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? You know, and just kind
Are
of.
people going to be looking at
You know,
him?
you
Are they
can-
going to be looking at us?
You can settle, you know, if I'm settling down to read a book, you know, he's going to run in and, you know, there's a possibility in 5-10 minutes he'll run in and he'll just start repeating something, or, you know,
Okay.
there's something else that he wants to do, and it's just, you know, you don't.
You can never relax 100%.
It's a lot different. I mean, with Madeline, it's much more, I think, of a typical, you know, she does her own thing, and, you know, she's on her iPad for a while, and so there, you know, isn't sort of that constant vigilance in the same way there is with him. I mean, we manage it, but,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's not something that, I don't know that people can really appreciate it unless they experience it.
Okay. What are some of the unusual, crazy things that you have heard, sadly, from a family or someone who may not understand that you know, you can take a moment and say, you know, really, this doesn't need to happen, or this kind of behavior or whatever from folks.
Well, this isn't so crazy, but and their heart is in the right place. I have family members and friends who are constantly letting me know about programs on television about autism. You know, such and such, you know, is this great basketball player and he has autism, and you know, there's this play being put on by autistic kids, and there's this documentary about these autistic kids. You know, that's great. That's really great. But I live it, and I don't need to watch it for entertainment. And my kid is not one of those kids that's going to make the, you know, the game-winning basket, you know, or write a symphony or do whatever. So I appreciate the interest, but I also appreciate the fact, you know, letting them know that I don't care to see it because I live it. And, you know, people's hearts are always in the right place. You know, I get that, you know, try this treatment, try that treatment, the diets that were popular a couple of years ago, and hyperbaric chambers, and, you know, all this stuff. But, you know, when push comes to shove, we're living with this every day, and I think it goes back to what Tom said. You really, you know, as much as we appreciate the input, you know, they're not. So, you know.
In terms of maybe a story, how about a lighthearted story that you could share that, yeah, one of those where you kind of start to chuckle. Go ahead.
It involves a not so nice word. I'll figure this out. Sam Henry was 2 years old.
You don't have to say the whole word.
Yeah, I
you can
know.
just-
I know. Sam Henry was 2 years old. He was completely nonverbal. He'd never said a word in his entire life. And he was in a special needs preschool class. And, you know, they'd been working with him. It was probably June at this point, so they'd been working with him for the entire year. You know, couldn't get him to utter a single word. He trips on a mat. And he, in a nice, big, loud voice, said, "Oh, S." And the teacher called me up, and I said, "Well, you know what? It's in context. It's a 2-word sentence, and I am incredibly proud of him. Incredibly proud of him." So that's one of my favorite stories about Sam Henry's first words.
That's a good one. I got it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I think one of the things that, and I don't know if this is quite, well, you were talking about the story, so now I'm trying to think of one.
Well,
That was a
if
good
one
one.
comes, if it comes to you later, then we can, you can insert it a little bit later on. That's quite fine. So.
No, I think those are the, anyway, that's the best one I can think of.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So, what about, let's see here, your aspirations for your children, and talk about that just a little bit.
I just want Sam Henry to move out of our basement.
I mean, he doesn't literally live in our basement,
No.
but, you know. But I think we want him, you know, when he's an adult, we want him to be able to live, you know, in some sort of a supported setting, but not in our house.
Yeah, and have a job that he's happy going to with people that care about him.
Yeah.
Madeline, you know, we're fairly certain she has the tools that she'll need to be a successful adult, and you know, she'll have probably some social issues along the way, but we're not quite as worried about her as we are him. For her, I just want her to be happy and to live a fulfilling life for herself, whatever she defines that as. And yeah, for him to be able to live as fulfilling a life as possible with the support that he needs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In terms of situations that occur, and you kind of gave one in your story earlier, I guess, but sometimes there's a challenge that happens to us, but then after we put it in a different perspective or context, we realize, you know what, that actually worked out for the better, for the good. Do you have anything in mind in that particular area where it was actually a blessing that was masquerading as a problem?
School. His school situation, Sam Henry's school situation.
Yeah.
We had been trying very, very hard to get him into a particular special needs school.
Okay.
And because of weather-related instances, the spot that they had for him became filled before we could have our meeting. So we were devastated. Because of that, we got a school for him that wasn't quite as popular, and which we didn't know a whole lot about, and it turned out to be a perfect fit for him.
Wow.
So you know, after crying and sobbing and you know about all this, it all kind of turned out the way it should in the end.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any thoughts that you have that you want to share with the audience? Maybe there's something I did not ask you that you really want to get that message across to everyone.
I guess the main message I would try to get across to people is that, you know, even when you're trying to be helpful, sometimes it's hurtful. And what I mean by that is, you know, if somebody's making suggestions about, you know, well, I took my daughter to these kinds of places, and, you know, when I had kids your age, or, you know, what about doing this type of activity? And, you know, that's really hard to hear, because those kinds of activities are, they may not be appropriate for our kids. And so it just sort of is a reminder of the fact that our lives are different and harder. And I know people mean well when they do that, but I think sometimes it's not helpful. And I don't know that there's a good answer. I mean, I think it's not something you can really necessarily fix. I think it's just something where, you know, you have to empathize, you know, with the other person. And unfortunately, my tendency, I will say, you know, when we have situations that arise, is to try to fix it. But I don't know. I think just people understanding that it's difficult and acknowledging that, but also kind of not trying to, you know, put these parents up on a pedestal, because we're still just human beings.
And also the kids are human beings too. I mean, you'll see a child trying to regulate himself in public or making noises in public, and you know, they're not doing it to annoy you. You know, they're doing it because they can't help it. Mm-hmm. You know, this is their form of regulation. So it's okay to look. It's not okay to stare. It's okay to ask questions, mm-hmm. But it's not okay to make fun of. You know, mm-hmm. And these kids know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, they're not dumb. They know when you're talking about them. They know what you're talking about. They know they have autism, for the most part. I can't speak for all these kids, but and adults.
But they know that they're different, and that the world for them is different than it is for the other people they see around them. I think that's
world is a lot harder for them than it is for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to.
And
keep
the world
that
is
in mind.
already hard for.
Yeah, it's already hard for everybody.
For everybody.
Yeah,
but,
and it's just harder for them.
But you know, the different things that most of us take for granted don't come naturally to these kids, and they really have to work at it to function in society.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the advice you gave was that both of you gave, I think, is really helpful. And I hear you when you're saying please just try to be empathetic and avoid that fix-it thing, which kind of pops up a lot.
Right.
Everybody's unique trying to make it.
Oh, I just have another story.
Yeah.
Speaking of that.
Uh-huh.
So my mom, 80 years old,
Oh, okay.
she's an older lady. Been around the
As
block.
if you didn't know by the 80 years old part.
she's a New Yorker. She's tough.
Oh,
she's been
okay.
around the block. And before we had our children, my mom always said she was the first one that was like, quiet your child down. Your child, needs a good spanking. Blah blah blah. You know.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And now she's the first one to go up to someone and say, "What can I do to help you?"
Okay.
And our kids have done that for
Wow.
her. And
That's
she's made
incredible.
she's made a complete 180. And she's probably the most empathetic human being I know. In these situations, she'll go up to perfect strangers. Their child is having a tantrum, be it a typical child or a not typical child, and be like, "Can I do something? Can I get you something? Do you need me to grab something off a shelf for you in the bread department?" So that's been a really
What a
cool
story.
thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see the transformation. Okay.
Yeah.
Almost as if I'm there.
Yeah. It's cool.
Well, cool. All right. So we have been having a great conversation, I think, here. First of all, so much thanks to Tom and Amanda Cornfield. They have allowed us into their home, and they've educated and began to explain to us how we can operate, what it's like when you have autism as a part of your family, and how that can be an impact and what that journey is like. So we're grateful to them. And also, I want to remind you that this is sponsored by Adaptivities. So Kiana and Madeline, they have their Madeline Mondays, which I've watched myself and seen those. Really cool. And they've got some great things coming up. So we hope you enjoyed this session. If you did, please make sure you like and share and let us know what your thoughts are. Again, thank you so much, Tom and Amanda, for letting us come in and sitting down and talking.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Tune in next week for a brand new episode of Madeline Monday.